guys, it's RJ with The Variant, and we are here with Charlie Rocket Cosplay. She is our cosplay feature interview for the month of January 2016, first one of the year. Yay! So Tabby, tell us your background as far as what you do outside of cosplay.
Well, outside of cosplay, right now my whole life basically is cosplay, but before all of that, I started with photography when I was in high school, and then shortly after that it kind of brought me into modeling, and modeling eventually led to cosplay. I've been kind of dressing up my whole life, so naturally that's where it led me.
Gotcha. So I know you're a mom, so how has being a mother changed that as well as your cosplay, if at all?
Well, I have to say that being a mother is the only other thing I do other than cosplay for the most part. It takes up a whole lot of my time. So time-wise, it definitely constricts me a little bit. But the other thing about being a mother is it kind of makes me think twice about what cosplays and costumes I should be wearing. There's not really limits on if you're a mother or not, but a lot of stuff does make me uncomfortable now that I am a mom. And since I started cosplaying after I became a mom, those limits haven't really stopped me at all.
Cool, very cool. What are your 3 favorite fandoms?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I have so many different fandoms, but I've got to say I'm like a huge comic book fan, so I'm gonna go with like Spider-Man because he's my #1 favorite comic book hero.
Awesome.
And X-Men because that's that's what I grew up on. Spider-Man, X-Men, and it's hard. And Pokemon. Pokemon because that's my favorite anime, and I have to. Anytime I see anything dealing with Pokemon, I like freak out. So I have to say Pokemon.
Nice, very cool. How does body type affect which cosplays you choose to do?
Well, as for body type, I normally think about 2 different issues, I guess I would say. Not really issues, but my first one being bust. I'm not the bustiest person in the world, but of course there's tutorials and things like that and ways to get around that. It does change sometimes what costumes you choose and how to make them, just because costumes like my Gamora costume or my Plastic Man costume, you don't really have much room to improvise. I have like duct tape and whatever God gave me. Right. So costumes like that, you just do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But the other thing that normally affects kind of my costume choice, I try not to let it, but it would be race. My skin color wouldn't really be a body image issue, but it definitely affects how I think about different cosplays and characters and if I want to cosplay them or not. Growing up, my dad always said, no excuses. But another thing that he always says is to fight for what you believe in and what you deserve. And the only reason I say that is because really what it is I could go on for forever about how cosplayers of color, it's harder for us to get likes and to do things like that, and to really go out there, and how even the more popular POC cosplayers have way fewer likes and comments and things like that than cosplayers that may be white or Asian. But really what I would want to resonate with people is that we're all in costume. And when I chose to cosplay Storm, it was really hard for me because I love Storm so much, but I am not the same skin color as Storm, despite the skin color she is in movies and things like that. I love, the original store.
Well, see, I mean, I grew up in that early age of X-Men.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up, and in that earlier X-Men, she was a lighter shade. And to me, your Storm is, like, spot on. Whenever
Right.
I see it, I'm like, that's Storm. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
And as a cosplayer, we always want to get as close as possible to
Right.
the character. And the one I grew up with was the 90s Storm. So
Right.
she's a darker skin
Gotcha.
color. And so it was hard for me to, like, be that. And,
Goddess of lightning.
Yeah, exactly. But really, at the end of the day, cosplay is not about race. And so,
Right.
like I said before, it shouldn't be a body image issue, but it is. And it's one that people often let limit them on their costume. So now I try not to do that. After Storm, and I got so much positive feedback, I definitely try not to do that. Like,
Good.
Nobody should be, like, pointing anybody out and saying, oh, you're the black insert character name here.
Right.
They're just cosplaying that character. Because, I mean, nobody's running up to, like, white Speed Racer characters and saying, you're not Italian. Like,
Right.
That's not really what the deal is. So all I wanted to say about that is not to let that limit you, and not to let that be a body image issue, and just cosplay what you want.
Very cool. Very cool. So, do you have any memorable success stories from any cons? Any particular cons?
Well, for the most part, all cons are pretty successful as long as I don't die there, or like, as long as I can put a costume on. But there is one story. At Wizard World, I met two little girls,
Right.
and one of them really badly wanted a print of my Catwoman. So I signed it and I gave it to her. And I'm, oh, nice to meet you all. And so recently, when we went to Fayetteville Comic Con, I saw those two little girls.
Nice.
And she ran up to me and she's like, Charlie Rocket, Charlie Rocket. I'm like, oh my God, she remembered what my name is. And she was wearing a Catwoman costume.
Wow.
And her mom was just like, yeah, she kept begging me to make her a Catwoman costume. She wanted it to look just like yours. And she was so adorable. And I felt like super overwhelmed
Fan for life right
with
there.
happiness. Yeah. More like I'm her fan for
With that,
life.
yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah. Because she was just so adorable, and that's gotta be like my favorite moments
Gotcha.
from any con.
Okay. What is your favorite costume that you currently do, and why?
My favorite costume, I'm gonna say, is Plastic Man. Because
No, I know you like Plastic Man. I mean,
I love Plastic Man. Like, a lot of people were like, oh my God, you look awesome. Who are you? And I'm like, Plastic Man.
Nice.
And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it is my favorite. I was determined to be Plastic Man. And one reason why it's my favorite is because Pride Star was wrong. He was so wrong. He kept saying, don't be Plastic Man, be something everybody knows, and blah, blah, blah.
Everybody knows Plastic Man.
And I'm always outside of the box.
Right.
I'm always thinking about these, like, weird characters. I want to, like, gender swap or something like that. And he was like, no, nobody's going to know who you are. Nobody's going to like it. So he was wrong. And I'm excited. And that's why, a big reason why I love Plastic
I still
Man.
think you should have gone with the Fun Noodle Arm.
I should have, I really didn't think of it at the time.
I'll
but,
buy
like,
you the
I'm,
Fun
like,
Noodle Arm.
double jointed, so there's no reason
Oh,
why I
okay.
didn't take, like, any pictures like that as Plastic Man. Like, there's no reason. But it's also really comfortable. So,
Cool.
my fave.
All right, so you have an unlimited budget. What cosplay do you do?
Oh my God. The problem with that question, people ask me that question, and the problem is I'm going to go the cheapest route regardless.
Right.
So I'm going to find cheap ways to do magical things.
And then just pocket the rest of the money.
Yeah, regardless. I'm a cheap person. That's what I do. I would have said Mira Jane Satan Soul, but I've done that now. So,
You did that in Amazement.
right, exactly. I would probably redo Mira Jane and do the wings a little better and have a tail this time. That would probably be what I would do in this money.
Okay. How has a background in modeling helped your cosplaying?
Well, like I said, I was in photography in high school, and then for like 10 years, but we did a project in photography where you do a self-portrait.
Right.
And so after that, I learned, and then on through modeling, and you'll see it on TV, they always say to just look in the mirror, just look at what angles are best for you and what poses are best for you. And it started there in high school until I realized I really like doing this. I really like being behind the camera, but I really like being in front of the camera. Like, that became more of a dream for me.
Gotcha.
So it definitely helps me to find what works best for me, what angles work best for me,
Right.
and what poses. It helps me to get into character as well, because of course with acting or something like that, you can definitely get into character, but with modeling, you have to make that character resonate with one shot, without speaking, without doing anything else other than the millisecond it takes to snap that photo. So it definitely helped out a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I know you've dealt with some negativity in the past. So how do you personally deal with that when somebody makes a rude comment or just comes up to you at a con and says something stupid? You know, how do you?
Touching back on the last question, it most of the negative comments I get are regarding race and, oh, you would have been perfect as this, but you're this skin color or
Right.
something like that. And really, I don't think a lot of the people who say things like that, I don't think it's coming from a hateful place or anything like that. So a lot of times I let it just slide. I think they just don't know how to verbalize
Right.
what they're feeling, and a lot of times they're trying to give a compliment. They don't realize they're being offensive or
Right.
something like that. So I just let it slide. I know it's not
Just like be a duck.
yeah.
Water rolling right off your back like a duck.
Duck, just like a duck. And sorry. And I a lot of times I just let it slide. And if it's written, it's a completely different story. A lot of people on the internet use that as an opportunity to be a troll and just be rude for no reason.
Right.
And I know myself, and my biggest advice is to know yourself and what you can take personally. And personally, I can't take anything. So I just don't read it. I don't read any of it because I know I'll think about it all the time. All the compliments I get, I'm going to think back to that one negative person.
Right.
So I just don't
Blow
read
it
it at
off.
all.
Gotcha.
And my fans normally jump on them really fast. So they take care
I
of it
have
for
seen
me.
that on your
Yeah.
video quite a few times.
I was surprised, but I was like, oh, snap. Got an army of Rocketeers there.
I mean, they're fans for a reason. so
Exactly.
Very cool. What is Charlie Rocket's secret obsession?
Secret obsession. Okay, I don't know if this is much of a secret, but shoes. It's shoes.
It's like a big shoe. You're
It's
shoe
a
girl.
problem.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for a long time.
How many pairs of shoes would you say you had?
Oh, God.
Is it like, do you have your own shoe wing at the house?
I have at least 50 pairs of shoes.
Okay.
At the very least. I have no idea. They're all over the house.
Pretty
the closet
obsessive.
belongs to me. It's 2 closets. All of it is shoes. There's shoes in boxes, shoes in bags. It's a problem. It started in high school, and I never throw shoes away.
Do you actually wear all the shoes, or are you just a shoe collector?
I'm a shoe hoarder. Because some of them go out of style, but style kind of recycles itself.
Right,
so I
so-
always know, I'm like, well, this will come back.
8 years later.
And everybody thinks I'm like a crazy shoe lady, like a cat lady, but like with shoes. But, I mean, I found a pair of black boots the other day that were perfect for my black cat. So, I mean, hey.
Hey, that works.
Especially now that I cosplay, I've been collecting since like 12th grade.
I mean, you never have to go buy shoes.
hey,
'cause you got-
exactly.
there you go.
Just turn them all into a costume. It's great.
Okay. Without naming names, have you ever had a bad photography experience?
I have to say that I've shot with a handful of people, and every single one of them is a completely different personality type, art style, and everything else. So they're all completely different how they shoot, but I have to say that every single one of them has given me amazing pictures to work with. So I have no complaints whatsoever.
Like no creepers or anything like that?
Creepers are everywhere.
I mean, yeah.
If you're a woman, creepers are everywhere. So I'm not going to say anything about creepers. They're in every department
Okay.
of life.
Fair enough.
I go buy my shoes and there's creepers. So.
What has been your worst costume malfunction?
Oh God, my Black Widow is just like constantly a malfunction. Like it is. When I did Black Widow, okay, I personally am not the biggest Black Widow fan. She was really cool in the movies, but I wasn't really a big fan before. And she was cool in the cartoons and whatnot, but I wasn't a huge fan of Black Widow. My mom, on the other hand, that is her favorite comic book character.
Okay.
So I cosplayed Black Widow for her because it was Wizard World was the month of her birthday. So I cosplayed Black Widow for her birthday. I put it together real fast. Most of it is hot glue and random stuff I found at the dollar store that I just painted.
Right.
And so I wore it to Wizard World at my panel, and it was gorgeous. And I was like, yay! As soon as I walked out, like the whole like gun thing was like falling apart. And I tried to like hot glue it back, do a photo shoot real fast. By the end of the photo shoot, the glue's melted, the stuff fell off. Like, it's just a big malfunction.
Just a big mess.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just ruined.
Name one cosplayer that you know personally that inspires you.
Can I name two?
You can, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
okay. First, my very first one, Jenna Say What. Oh my God.
Love Jenna.
I love Jenna so much. Not just because she's like my brother from another mother.
Right.
Because we're both men. You guys know. So, but because I love shooting with Jenna. Like if somebody is taking pictures of us, it doesn't have to be together. But like they're always like, oh, who wants to go first? I'm like, she wants to go first. And as soon as she gets behind, like in front of the camera,
Right.
not only is she giving me life with her face, like already, but that eyebrow goes up and she gives me everything I could possibly need, like every ounce of inspiration in her face. And I'm like screaming and snapping and I'm like, yes! And I'm doing all this craziness. And she just gets me excited. And so then I'm going next and I'm already pumped and ready. And then she's behind the camera like screaming for me. I just love Jenna to death. She
She's a doll.
inspires me. All of her pictures are flawless. Like I don't know how she does her.
She killed on her spotlight
Yes,
last month. I mean,
yes.
she killed.
Oh God, she's just amazing. And then if her pictures weren't enough, like we have very similar backgrounds, and the fact that she is so brave and like outspoken about everything, like she's a huge inspiration to me. I've never been an outspoken person, maybe like an outgoing person, but not outspoken by any means.
Gotcha.
And so just watching her bravery and courage and everything, she's just everything
It's
to
definitely
me.
a good choice, yeah.
Yes.
No doubt.
The second person is not even like the closest of friends with me or anything like that. It might sound random, but I'm gonna say Aaron.
Aaron,
as something different cosplay.
Okay, something
Yes.
different cosplay.
Because when I met him last year at NC Comic Con, he was Mr. Freeze. First of all, I fell on the ground and then like almost like fangirled like really extra hard.
Right.
Because I love Mr. Freeze and I had like a meltdown. And when I went up to him to ask him about it, because I wanted to do Mr. Freeze for NC Comic Con and I gave up. And I was like, I can't make things. I don't know. I'm a failure. I went up to him and I asked him, like, how did you do the helmet? How did you do it? And he just tells you. He's just like, oh, yeah, it's this. Oh, yeah, it's that Target. Oh,
Right.
blah, blah. But he's a huge inspiration to me because he just does everything. And he's like, no big deal. Oh, yeah, you can just do this. And I'm like, what? And not only does he just make whatever he feels like, but he thinks outside the box. I never see a duplicate of whatever he's cosplaying.
Right.
Nobody else is
Anywhere
wearing
else,
it.
yeah.
And I'm somebody who thinks outside of the box too, but I never do it. Like
With
always like,
Plastic
and
Man.
then right,
Yeah.
Plastic Man being the first of many to come.
Do it.
But I'm like, yeah, I want to do this, that, and the other, and then I'm like, you know what, I'll do Harley Quinn. You know what, I'll do Catwoman. It's fine. Granted, those are two of my favorites also.
Right.
But Aaron inspires me to do that and just be good at something you want to do. And just do it.
Didn't he have you sign a Plastic Man comic?
Oh my God, he
At Oak
did.
City?
So it's full circle.
Yeah.
It's full circle. He's like all the characters I love who like nobody cosplays. And then when I do it, he's like, give me your autograph. I'm like, yes!
Nice.
And in addition to that, every time he sees me at a con or in a costume or something like that, he finds something to compliment that's something I took a lot of time to make or to do.
Right.
And he asked me how to do it, and he's like, oh my God, how'd you think of that? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, great Catwoman, you've got boobs. Like, something. But he's like, wow, how did you make your ears? Or like, well, maybe not for Catwoman, but
Right.
for my other ones, he's always finding something small that nobody else is looking at, and he's saying,
Like the detail oriented.
Right.
He's very
he's
detail
very
oriented.
detail oriented, and that's something that I'm kind of lacking on because I want to finish really fast.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, forget these details. I just want to hurry up. And he's very detail oriented, so he's inspiring me to take the time and actually do everything the right way and kind of slow down, do the details, so that he has new things to compliment.
Okay. Last question.
Yes.
Dream gig and why?
Dream gig. I wanted to be a model, like a majority of my life, but I'm like slightly too short. I am 5'6" and 3/4. And 5'7" is like, you're the shortest. We might accept you. And there's other ways you can model like commercial
Hand
stuff.
model.
Yeah. There's other things, but I really wanted to be like a runway model, like be like a tall, like
Right.
skinny Amazon awesome person. So my dream gig would have been Victoria's Secret fashion show or something.
Angels or something.
Yeah, like I come out with those wings on and be the next Tyra Banks or something. That would have been legit.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
I love Tyra.
Okay. All right, so I want to thank you for coming. Thank you.
you.
You are our cosplay spotlight for the month of January 2016. And do you have any pages you want to plug? Or?
You can check me out on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/charrocket. My Instagram is @CharlieRocketCosplay, and my Twitter is @CharlieXRocket, because Charlie Rocket was taken.
Oh.
But yeah. And Tumblr.
Yay. All right, so I will see you guys next month.